Hello everybody and welcome to the first episode of Standard Definition, a retro and nostalgia-based podcast here on Boss Rush Games. I am one of your hosts, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is that retro code, Eddie V.
Kawabunga! In my Super Nintendo voice.
Yes. Also joining us on this episode is the wise Wisconsinite, Jesse Douglas.
How's it going? Let's get some pizza.
So, before we get started here, I just want to kind of update everybody on what's happening with Standard Definition, because I know Ed and I made a video a couple weeks ago at this point to tell everybody what's happening with it, and so we've changed a few things around. Standard Definition will now be every other week, opposite of 1v1, which is our interview series. It'll every other Friday on the Boss Rush podcast feed. We're going to do it every other week on something. Every other week we pick a topic that we want to talk about and kind of take a deep dive on and really get into, kind of movies or TV shows or toys that we used to play with, or some video game stuff, but I don't want the show to be solely based on that. And personally, it's a show that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and I'm glad that we are all able to do this here on Boss Rush Games. So it will be in its own category on our website and on our YouTube page, but in terms of the podcast form, it will be on the Boss Rush podcast feed every other Friday for you to enjoy. So that's what's happening with Standard Definition. If you are just joining Boss Rush Games, welcome. Boss Rush Podcast is our flagship show, and Standard Definition is our retro and nostalgia podcast that you can hear every other Friday. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Boss Rush Games, or you can catch it on bossrushgames.com. You can join our Facebook community at facebook.com/group/bossrushgames. Like us on Facebook and Instagram at Boss Rush Games, and follow us on Twitter at boss_rush_games. Our first episode here on Standard Definition, guys, is something that is near and dear to our hearts. Something that we tried to do for Arsenal X a long time ago was movie commentaries. And our first movie commentary was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 1990 classic film. And today we are here to revisit that film. Our first episode will be going over the ins and outs of that 1990 classic, seminal film of our childhood. At least my childhood. Ninja Turtles was a big part of my childhood. So
I think it was all of ours.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
anything that had turtles on it back in the day, it was like, yes.
Yeah, and I think that's why we want to do Turtles, right? Is like that, like make sure this is our first one, is because yes, we play with the toys, yes, we play with the cartoons, but this movie was such a, not only a departure from what we were used to, but just for me, it was really the first time that I was like, oh man, this could be something way more interesting than just, pizza and one-off jokes and cowabungas, right? Like this was the first time I really thought like, oh man, if we could get something like, we talk about if Rocksteady would do a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, we would want it kind of based on this movie or, the original run of comics. And so before we get into this deep dive and then the plot and then kind of reviewing the movie ourselves, like what is your guys' history with the Ninja Turtles?
As in the movie or just the series?
Just kind of in general, but leaning towards the movie, I would say.
So definitely for me, it's definitely watching the 5-part cartoon. We used to have a thing called Channel 50, which was it wasn't UPN at that time, but eventually it became that. And I remember at 3 o'clock in the afternoon after school, just out of nowhere, they would sometimes premiere different cartoons, and Ninja Turtles was the one I was watching Monday through Friday. And later on, they got picked up and started watching the season and everything, and I just fell in love with it because I was a big kid of martial arts. I love martial art movies. I love ninjas. Jean-Claude Van Damme was like my hero, like when it came to like martial arts and stuff. So watching the Turtles as a kid, you know, seeing and I didn't even think about Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael being painters and artists and all of that coming from it. But I just remember watching the cartoon, and then when it came to the arcade and Konami had picked it up, I was just like, yes, I love this, and it hitting the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, going to video game form. I was just like all turned out. My best friend, my neighbor, he had all the toys, and he had the van, and we would just play with different turtles and everything. Like a new one came out, his dad got it from him, and we would just have fun right there. So I didn't have to really buy any Ninja Turtles action figures. And then when the movie came out, when it got announced, I remember not even seeing a trailer for it, but knowing that there was a Turtles movie that was just at the theater, and my brother, who was also a big Turtle fan, he wanted to go, and so that's how we ended up watching Ninja Turtles with my mom. We all went there, and luckily we was able to get tickets, but everything was like sold out with kids and parents watching the Turtle movie. And during that time, I think that's when they had like the potato chips, the yogurt, the little hosty cakes with the pudding in it, the green lime pudding in it and stuff.
Oh, that was...
Yeah, like there was the merchandising and stuff, and the last time I seen something like that really was the Transformers movie from like years earlier. So that's how I kind of fell in love in my history with the Ninja Turtles. And definitely watching this movie at the theater, and then getting the VHS and watching it over and over. I think was the VHS white, or was that part 2?
I think, well, for me, my box was black and green. Like, it had the black cover with, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in black font with the green kind of glowing behind the font. And then the turtles, all 4 turtles were kind of just standing there being cool.
And then I think part 2 was the white cover, right? I think.
I don't...
I know Turtles...
I mean, for me, the cover, like, all the covers were black, and then Turtles 3... was a yellow cover.
Yellow. I thought one of them was white and green. I thought that was the second one.
Maybe they re-release it with different colors boxes, but I still have all my VHSs of those movies, and they are definitely I can just see them very vividly in my head. So
yeah, my mom, she still has all 3 movies. That was my history with the Ninja Turtles and everything.
Nice.
Mine was pretty close to Ed's. Like for me, like I can just vividly remember though, like when getting all the toys and stuff like that. That like whenever I would take a bath or whatever when I was younger, those are always the toys of choice to play with in the bathtub and stuff like that. Is like. I think between those and my Ghostbuster toys that were by far the most played with, but and then I remember like having some other characters. Like, do you guys remember they were the troll dolls, but it was like a cartoon where they had a stone in their bellies or something like that. Yeah,
I have those too.
Yeah, I had those, and so those would be like bad guys that would go against like the turtles, and because they were fairly similar size and everything, and like kind of similar. So like, yeah, like, man. And then, either of you guys have the blimp?
I have everything you could possibly think of for Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Although I think my
Like,
blimp is definitely not blown up, and it probably has a hole in it somewhere.
yeah, yeah. Like that was the thing, is like, God, they had so many amazing like vehicles and stuff like that for the Turtles. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, I basically, like, I lived on just watching, yeah, Turtles and Ghostbusters. And then yeah, like once the movies came out, I'm like, oh my god, they did such a good job of making them look, like this is what the Turtles would look like if they were real.
Yeah.
Like I just remember just being blown away by it. And like Casey Jones.
Yeah.
Casey Jones looked awesome in the movie.
Like every time I just think of Turtles now, like it doesn't matter if I'm like watching a cartoon or like reading about them or just thinking about them randomly. That movie is what I think all those characters should look like. Like, yeah, okay, you could modernize April a little bit, but like,
yeah,
everything else in that movie really holds up. Maybe,
Yes.
maybe Charles's glasses could be a little bit smaller, but yeah. I mean, for me, I remember the first time I got Ninja Turtles, and then like those were the first toys that I remember actually collecting.
yeah.
I have over 200 Ninja Turtles action figures from the time I was about 3 until I actually think I was still collecting them by the time the animated movie was coming out. The fourth movie, if you want to call it that.
The TMNT.
I was probably pretty heavily collecting them until my mid-teens, and then I would get certain ones here and there. Now I'm working on those the NECA ones, those 12-inch ones that are like $125 a piece. I would really like to have those. They were a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and now people are selling them.
Dude,
and they just came out with a second wave too. One that with like it's Shredder, Tatsu, Casey Jones, and April, I think, are the 4 new ones. And I just, this is not, Turtles not only made me fall in love with like cartoons, but it made me fall in love with like animation, and this movie in particular made me do deep dives on Jim Henson, right, and really just learn a lot about that kind of stuff. And after Ninja Turtles, I fell into the Jim Henson rabbit hole of like not just the Muppet movies or anything, but like Dark Crystal and Labyrinth and Neverending Story, and I'm sure we will do standard definitions on all those movies too at some point.
And it's weird because like when it comes to Jim Henson, definitely for me it's Sesame Street, the Muppet Babies, the Muppet Show,
Fraggle Rock for me, and
Fraggle Rock. Right. And it was just something about Jim Henson and his Muppet brand that you recognized it what it was when you talk about the Muppet movies. One of the most iconic songs in history for musicals or just music in general is the Rainbow Connection. That's one of the biggest ones that you hear it and there's just something about it that makes you feel good and makes you sing along.
Yeah. Fraggle Rock's theme is like that too.
Yeah.
Like
Fraggle Rock, clap. Yeah, that thing. So it's like Muppet Babies, even Muppet Babies theme song. And speaking of Turtles, you just hear that synth. Ew, Teenage Mutant, and just that was really iconic because cartoons always. You had to have a begging theme song.
If you didn't have a cool theme song, you weren't getting watched.
Yeah.
Let's be real, right? Like you think of all the shows even after Ninja Turtles, like Power Rangers had a killer theme song. It's just if you don't have a theme song, you're just what are you doing? you know.
Right. Like
Yeah.
the 80s and 90s like cartoon theme songs were the gems.
They had to be rocking.
Yeah, like shows like Jim, and the holograms,
Biker
Dark
Mice
Ink,
from Mars.
Oh
Biker
yeah,
Mice from
Biker
Mars,
Mice from Mars was
uh,
awesome too.
Transformers. You mentioned Power Rangers, Batman the animated series,
Darkwing Duck.
Yeah.
Darkwing Duck, Gummy
all those.
Bears.
I mean, you think
Like
of all
the
those
Disney
Disney
cartoons.
afternoon cartoons too, like
Gummy bear.
you know,
here and
Chippendale
there.
Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, even
Mhm.
even like later ones like Bonkers was like still had cool theme songs and
Bobcat.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
and even Hanna-Barbera with Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones. Like you just watch Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And you just hear
Yeah.
just the beginning of that. Exactly. So, and then in some of the earlier shows, they had music throughout the show and everything. And it's just like, if you had a rockin' cartoon theme, you were going to watch it. And seeing how big the Ninja Turtles was, it just started out like grabbing your attention with the animation and just the music and stuff. And not so much for the movie. The movie's just like, it starts out, in case if you never watched a cartoon, it kind of starts out showing New York City.
yeah.
And it's just like,
oh come on though,
wow.
the end song for the TURTLE Power at the end of the movie though,
Oh yeah.
that song's banging.
Yeah. But it's just like,
I can tell you,
But-
as the resident music guy on Boss Rush games, that song is banging.
but yeah, it is. But it's just like, it's just it was just something about that. Like, you don't really think about the Turtles when it comes to music, besides the Vanilla Ice thing in part 2. But when you you can memorize what the Turtle theme song and ending was, not really so much for the show's
Splinter made it
actual
funny,
winning
guys.
competition.
Splinter
Oh,
made it
wow.
funny.
You know.
I made another funny.
Yeah, but like the Ninja Turtle movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, just seeing different areas and how they set up the Foot Clan, and when we was doing the commentary, we was just like asking questions and laughing, just like, this goofy mess, like how they stealing stuff in, you know,
Like literally broad daylight, they were on people's
Exactly.
porches stealing stuff.
Yeah.
right? And so
Well,
it
and
would,
Well, I mean, they go
Like,
into
I
that in the
just
second movie too, right? Where like when we're gonna do one on Secret of the Ooze, trust me, we're gonna do a movie, because I know like I'm in the minority here, but I think the first movie is the best movie. I know a lot of people think Secret of the Ooze is the best Turtles movie, which, don't get me wrong, I love that movie. It is a close second, but you know, when Kino has to steal all the bells and Raph goes in and takes all the bells and hands them to him, right? Like they kind of do that in the second movie, but
that was mainly the, like, I'm definitely I love the first movie. I liked the second movie more only because of the humor. Like, it was a little bit more humorous.
yes.
Like, in my opinion, that really was the only difference between the two. But they're both like amazing
I feel like,
movies.
Yeah, I feel like the second movie, plot wise, was better than the first one. There was something about the plot in the second one that was more, that stood out than the
like,
first.
how did Shredder survive the smashing in the dump truck?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Fell into the back.
Yeah. But Turtles is, you know, it's the first movie is probably, just for nostalgic reasons, is probably my favorite movie of all time. You know, there's three movies I always talk about being my favorite movies, and we will probably get to them all at some point. And it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's Toy Story, and it's Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade are like my three favorite movies of all time. And I really wanted to do Ninja Turtles because I know we all have an affection for the Ninja Turtles and how it makes us feel. So I do want to go into some of these notes I took here real quick before we get into the plot synopsis of the movie. It was released on March 30th, 1990, directed by Steve Barron on a budget of $13.5 million dollars. It had a box office total of $202 million with a runtime of 93 minutes. $202 million makes it the most successful independent movie of all time. They, even with the success of the cartoon and the toys and the merchandising, when Eastman and Laird were pitching this movie, they struggled to find a publisher or a distributor for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you the people who passed on this movie: Disney, Warner Brothers, Fox, and who was the other one? There was one more on here. Anyways, every major publisher passed on this, right? And so they went to New Line, who at the time was a smaller kind of film distributor who distributed a lot of smaller budget, independent style movies that still had a lot of people interested in it. And they made out, you know. It definitely benefited from having that smaller kind of distribution, I think.
It's very weird because when you think of New Line, you think of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and to go from that to Ninja Turtles, it's just like, wow, they really were reaching out to a lot of movies. And the 220 million, just to let everybody know, tickets were really cheap. So tickets were about $5 or $6 at that time. So they were like I think like a matinee was like $3 to $4, and if you could find like one of the smaller theaters, they would show the Turtles like for $1.50 or $2.
Yeah, there was a dollar theater here for a long time, and I did see this in the real theater. I remember my mom took me because it was Ninja Turtles, and she was really mad because they cuss in this movie. Raphael says "damn" twice in this movie, and she was really upset that a kids movie would use curse words. I remember that specifically. And then, of course, the dollar movie was when the big theater would take it out, they would take like a second run deal at this dollar movie, and I went and saw it at the dollar movie probably like 10 times that summer. It was awesome. It was, oh my gosh, I remember so vividly sitting in the movie theater, and when Raph is chasing Casey and jumps over the taxi cab, and he's like, "I'm not finished with you," and he's like, "Damn!" Like I remember looking at my mom's face, and she was like, well, it was hilarious. It was hilariously comically bad.
My mom, she didn't care. She took me to go see Action Jackson. Hearing that, and plus Transformers, they cussed to in that movie too. So I really didn't care about it or anything. Like my parents didn't really care. So
yeah, this movie starred Judith Hoag as April O'Neil, and Elias Koteas as Casey Jones. Kevin Clash plays Splinter as both a puppeteer and in voice. He still works for the Henson Company and Sesame Street to this day as the very popular character Elmo, in which he played until 2012 when he resigned for sexual assault allegations, but then was acquitted due to a statute of limitations and false information, and then reprising the character in 2018.
He also has a book out about him playing Elmo.
Yeah. Other notable talents include martial artist and actor James Sato as Oroku Saki, or the Shredder, Sam Rockwell as the head arcade thug, that's how he's credited, head arcade thug, Jay Patterson as Charles Pennington, Michael Tierney as Danny, Raymond Serra as Chief Stearns, and Toshishiro Obata as Tatsu, the second in command of the Foot Clan. Some more notable things about this movie. Jim Henson Company created and puppeted all of the Ninja Turtles via highly customized RC car remotes. Each of the Turtles had 3 puppeteers and suit performers and a voice actor, making it one of the Jim Henson Company's most complicated projects ever. This was the last movie that Jim Henson had hands-on effects and viewed before his death just 7 weeks after the movie released. So that's that. I have this book, which I would like to do one on Jim Henson specifically. It's called No Strings Attached. It's a biography on Jim Henson, and each chapter is about a different movie or project that he worked on, and how the puppets were made, and how hands-on he was during the projects and stuff. It's really good. I highly recommend you guys check it out. It comes in novel form and coffee table book style. I have the coffee table book style one because the pictures are amazing in that version of the book. So highly recommended. The Turtles' voice talent includes Brian Tochi as Leonardo. He voiced him in all 3 of the live-action movies. Robbie Rist as Michelangelo in all 3 live-action movies. Corey Feldman as Donatello in Turtles 1 and 3. And Josh Pais as Raphael. This was the only movie he played Raphael in. So it spawned 3 sequels. The Fast Track Secret of the Ooze in 1991. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 in 1993, and of course the animated TMNT movie, canonically a sequel to these movies, in 2007. It is also the only movie whose script was based solely on the initial run of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic books, making it the one piece of TMNT media to tie directly into the source material. One more fun fact, Pizza Hut engaged in a $20 million marketing campaign with this movie, even though the Turtles eat Domino's pizza in the movie. So that I thought that was a really funny piece.
Good on them.
Yeah.
And because if you play the arcade game, Pizza Hut is the energy that you get.
And if you played it on NES, it came with a coupon for 2 personal pan pizzas, and I still have that coupon. It's in the back of the instruction manual. You don't want to tear the instruction manuals apart.
Okay, of course not. But that's amazing, boss. Like, literally amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's hilarious. I'll show you when you come visit, Ed. We'll have to drive over to my parents' house and let you go through all the classic game stuff that's in my parents' basement that I probably should bring over here at some point. But yeah, it'll be a good time. So do we want to go through the plot synopsis of this movie and then kind of talk about each scene? As if you have something to say about the scene, let's talk about it. The camera. What?
Oh, what I said we started out, with them showing the city, and then how the Foot Clan was still in. Like they're doing like a radio newscast about it. April O'Neil's delivering this voiceover. You just see the Foot Clan still and stuff. The black lady, she up there just like whatever, and she get her TV stole.
Yeah,
we just like, wait, huh? So, but yeah,
I have the plot synopsis in front of me. I was going to read the hilariously written IMDb plot synopsis of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh goodness, go ahead.
Dude, it's kind of bad.
Yeah,
it's written really dramatically. It's just funny because you're like, this is a Turtles movie, dude. Just chill out. The camera pans over an aerial view of New York City as news reporter April O'Neil covers a story about a string of mysterious and seemingly organized thefts occurring across the city. We have various scenes of members of the gang, known as the Foot Clan, stealthily stealing various items from people right under their noses. As April walks across a vacant lot, at the end of the day, she stumbles across a group of thieves stealing merchandise from a van. They pin her to the ground and attempt to steal from her when, suddenly, a single light in the lot goes out, and by the time the nearby police arrive, the thugs have been tied up. April finds a sigh lying on the ground and puts it in the purse as a mysterious pair of eyes watching from under the lid of a manhole. The figure curses under his breath before disappearing underground. How hilarious is this written?
Very dramatic.
Curses under
It's so funny.
All right.
Deep in the sewers, a unique silhouette introduces the main title, before 4 humanoid turtles wearing colored eye bands appear. Cheering in celebration, they return to their home where their master, a large rat named Splinter, voiced by Kevin Clash, asks if they were seen and recites to them the importance of their continued training as ninjas, while one of them orders out for pizza. His attempt to meditate is interrupted when one of the turtles turns on the radio and they all start partying except for one, the turtle with the red eye band, Raphael. Already irritated at the loss of his sai, announces that he's going to a movie, wearing a trench coat and a hat as a disguise. In the meantime, 2 turtles, Donatello and Michelangelo, wait for the delivery man and skimp out on paying the full price for a 2-minute late pizza. Now, this scene is really funny. This scene where Michelangelo and Donatello are waiting for pizza is just, it's so funny. I love how Donatello and Michelangelo are just like, they're so, like, the comic relief those two provide in this movie are just hilarious. It's just so funny.
It's Michelangelo. Do you think what Splinter was talking about really makes you think? Michelangelo's response: "Pizza man's late."
Yeah. It's so funny.
It's just like, wait, it did not touch. It's like, oh, I can't believe you.
And the pizza guy's like walking on the sewer grate, and like he can't find the address because it's clearly the sewer, and he doesn't know that. And so I like how he just slides the whole box sideways down in because like the pizza's not gonna get messed up. It's just
right.
And they're in New York City. Who orders pizza in New York from Domino's, right? Like,
right.
Oh man, this there's so much about that scene that's so bothersome but hilariously bad at the same time. I love it so much.
Why you give me a 10? The bill was 13. Yeah. A wise man said, dang, I should have wrote it down. He was just like, you never pay full price for late pizza.
Yeah. It's so funny.
And he's just like, I got to give me another route.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. I really love the turtles' interaction with each other, and like especially because like, you know, Raph is so angry and just I mean this is his personality, right? Like he's a loner. He goes out. He thinks he should be the leader, that kind of thing. And Leonardo is clearly the leader, but he has an internal struggle with himself being a leader. Like there's so much character and development with those two characters specifically. And then you get to Donatello and Michelangelo. They're just like, let's just eat some pizza and party and dance to this ridiculous music and stuff.
Yes.
So
Donatello's smart when he needs to be, but otherwise he's like when I'm not thinking, I like to just have fun and be goofy.
Yeah. All right. The next scene. While out, Raphael manages to trip a couple of thugs trying to steal from an old woman. As they run into a nearby park, Raphael follows them and meets a vigilante who introduces himself as Casey Jones, wearing a hockey mask and armed with a baseball and cricket bat. Casey and Raphael get into an argument over the proper way to deal with thugs and fight each other, instead ending with Raphael in a garbage can and fumbling over being called a freak. Casey escapes and Raphael returns to the sewers where his temper is calmed with the kind words of Splinter. Now, this fight between Casey Jones and Raphael is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good. Oh, it's so good.
How did he start saying like batter up and swinging the croquette? And then it's so funny because now if you think in modern times, it felt like a smash fight.
Yeah,
not like Raphael gets smashed out or something.
Yeah,
you just see this overhead shot of Raphael getting hit. And then slowly he falls into the garbage can.
Yeah, I just love this fight so much because, like, first of all, they couldn't have gotten anybody cooler to play Casey Jones in this movie.
Yes.
Like, they literally couldn't have gotten anybody cooler. And the fact that, like, what really makes me mad, and I know we're not talking about the second two movies, but, like, what really makes me mad is, like, he doesn't come back for the second movie. And in the third movie, he's such a useless character. He's so useless in the third movie that, like, why? You know, just why even have him?
Yeah.
The third movie is a complete.
Yeah, I mean the third
utter
movie's a train
mess.
wreck anyway. Like that's
Yeah.
it's just one of the worst movies of all time. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I as much as I love Ninja Turtles, that third movie has very little to redeem itself.
Dude, we was doing a podcast on other stuff. We ended up talking about
Talked
Batman
about
and
everything
animated
but-
series.
I think we were talking about like Batman and like stuff like that during that movie. I wasn't even like really watching it. I'm pretty sure we were just talking.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but anyways, I love I love when they're like running away and Raph slides across the top of that taxi and the guy in the backseat's like, "What was that?" And the taxi driver's like, "I don't know. It kind of looked like a giant turtle." It was just like so random, but he was right. So
I think that was the director in that shot.
yeah, I think he was the passenger.
Yeah.
So because he does make a cameo in this movie. So so all right, should we move on to the next scene?
Yes.
As they say in this thing. Let's see. Where am I here? Okay. The next day, April pays a visit to the chief of police after a report where she is criticized by Chief Stearns for putting her nose in his business regarding the supposed organized crime wave. She walks into the subway to go home and is confronted by a team of thieves dressed in concealing ninja garb. The leader slaps her across the face and tells her to keep her mouth shut about the foot. When she tries to fight back, they knock her out, but are attacked by Raphael in disguise. The foot leader comes in time to see Raphael carrying the unconscious April down the subway tunnel and follows them. Raph takes April to the turtles' hideout. To everyone's disapproval, the foot leader peeks in through the doorway, seeing the turtles, and retreats. When April wakes up, she screams at the sight of the turtles and of Splinter, who proceed to explain who they are and why they're here.
Okay. Do you say I'm more Corey or?
I mean, there's an explanation down here through it just kind of explains the flashback situation. So
And didn't she pass out again?
Yeah.
Like they woke her up and then she passes out again when she sees them.
When she sees Splinter.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. When she goes to the police station, and I'm put that in quotes, police station, that whole scene was bonkers because, of course, Danny is stealing money. I think he steals money out of April's purse or something. But the police station looked like it was in a courthouse or something. Like it didn't match up. I'm like, what kind of like environment is she at? Like even the door, I was just like, this is not a police station. This is like a museum or something.
Yeah, right.
The head of security, like, this does not look right.
I've seen the police station in New York City. It does not look like that.
I was just like, this is bunkers.
But it is good. It is a good scene though, because like the chief of police, Chief Stearns, is just he's so irritating, and you just like, oh, come on, dude, you suck. Like you just suck at your job.
He reminds me of, is he in Police Academy?
I don't know. I guess I could look that up. But he's just an awful human being.
Yeah.
So, but that scene is hilarious when she he's yelling at her and she just slams the door in his face as she walks out, right? And her cameraman's like standing there, right? And oh, it's so funny. So, should I keep going? Should we move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Because that flashback is.
Yeah, let's talk about this flashback, which is also kind of hilariously bad, but it's okay. Apparently, 15 years prior, Splinter had been living in the sewers after being separated from his master, Hamato Yoshi, where he discovered 4 baby turtles that were moving around in some kind of toxic waste. He herded them to his home, where they quickly grew larger, eventually walking on 2 feet and talking. Splinter noticed changes in himself as well, particularly in intellect, quote, and began training the turtles in what he knew of the martial art of ninjutsu. He gave them all names reflecting the famous Renaissance artists, Raphael, Leonardo, Donatello, and Michelangelo. Each turtle has his weapon of choice, blah, blah, blah. It goes into them. And then, yeah, that's kind of the flashback situation. I love the fact that the baby turtles are like kicking each other and like it's like stop motion slow mo karate chops and kicks and stuff. These turtles.
Pizza.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Dinosaurs TV show.
Yeah, which Jim Henson
from that
also did.
Yeah.
They used the same technology from Ninja Turtles in the Dinosaur TV show, by the way.
Yeah.
By the way, the ending of Dinosaur, for years I
haven't finished it, but I know the ending.
For years I thought had a dream, like a terrifying dream that's how the show ended, like because it ends with the dinosaur apocalypse, like it just ends like that.
Yeah.
And I really thought that I had that was a dream that I had. And then, like, 10 or 15 years later, I learned that that's actually how the show ended. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. Oh, man. So, and then after this flashback scene, the Turtles escort April home and spend some time with her at the expense of some frozen pizza. When they return home, they find that their lair has been broken into and Splinter is missing. With nowhere else to go, they return to April and spend the night in her apartment. Which, the apartment scene is pretty funny. I know they're there for a sad reason, but like the next day when they're all like, when Michelangelo is doing all the scenes from these really famous 80s movies, like the Rocky scene is hilarious, and what does he do? He does something. He's like, "You dirty rat! You killed my brother! You dirty rat!" And then she's like, "That must be Splinter's favorite." And they all look at her like she wasn't supposed to make a joke, like super offended almost.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, she's like, yeah.
What was with her house though? Her house looked like a flower shop mixed with an antique shop all together. Like, it's not an apartment for a newscaster. What is this?
Oh, man,
Well, you talking about budget? Dude, what you got?
Dude, you can tell like 80% of that budget went towards the technology and the turtle suits. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, in this scene though, April. That's all I have to say.
I have no comment.
Oh man, it's just like, and then like the next scene when let's see. Okay, this is the next scene. So like when Charles comes to pay her visit at the apartment, and the turtles all have to hide and stuff, and I think Danny sees one of them in a mirror, and he turns around and it's a stuffed teddy bear. Like, it's just, that scene's really funny. So, and then Donatello's like hanging upside down in the shower. It's so good. Danny Pennington, a teenage thief seen in earlier in the film, is released from jail the next morning to his father Charles as part of a deal with Chief Stearns. Since Charles is headed to Channel 3 News, Stearns releases Danny on the condition that April cease her harsh coverage on the Foot Clan. Charles stops by April's apartment that morning and advises her to stop running her story before it gets her in further trouble. April, however, is more concerned about Charles discovering the turtles hiding in her apartment. Danny spots one briefly through a reflection before he and his father are ushered out. While driving home, Charles confronts Danny about stealing, and when he stops in traffic, Danny gets out of the car and runs away. He goes into an abandoned warehouse near the harbor in which the Foot has claimed it as a base of operation. Teenagers from across the city unload stolen items or play games under the watchful eye of Tatsu, who is second in command. A gong signals a mass meeting, and everyone gathers in the large arena where their leader, Master Shredder, a man clad in menacing ninja armor, addresses them as his outcast children. Then he tells them a new threat to the order as Splinter, tied up against the wall in the back, listens. Upon mentioning the word turtles, Danny speaks up. So,
how far did Danny run from the street all the way to that place?
Oh, to the docks? Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, that's probably pretty far. I mean, like, I know Manhattan's not like. I mean, it's a big island, but I don't know where they were in conjunction to like the shores of the harbor or not. But like, that's probably a pretty far away, unless he just ran into like the subway and like rode the subway there or something, Because
I'm just like, okay, so you running away, like there's got to be police around somewhere, or you're gonna get hit by a car. He's just like, the way that he runs is just funny. I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's super interesting, and it's super weird that like he just shows up there, right? Like it's just like it's nothing. Let's talk about this arcade though, real quick. There's like a skate park surrounded by arcade machines, and kids are just drinking beer and smoking cigarettes, like like it's nothing in this supposed kids movie,
right? But it was supposed to represent the rebellion, how bad
I know,
were.
but like,
yeah,
they would never show that in movies
today. The punk.
Oh, yes, they did, because you remember the Double Dragon movie? They did the same thing.
I never saw the Double Dragon movie, so.
The punk scene in New York.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was probably actually like that during that time. There's probably places like that.
No, they didn't do it again in part 2. They only did it in 1.
Yeah, well, part 2, they actually toned a lot of stuff down, and you actually notice that like none of the turtles actually use like their real weapons in that movie. Yeah. So
I didn't even realize that, and what the reason why. Like, I didn't hear no news story about that.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to this next scene. At April's apartment, the turtles watch the news as April updates on recent thefts and sends out a personal thanks to Raphael for rescuing her. However, Raphael and Leonardo soon get into a heated argument over what to do with Splinter. With Splinter gone, and Raphael leaves the apartment. He goes to the roof where he's ambushed by an army of Foot Clan ninjas. He is thrown unconscious back into April's apartment just as she gets home, and the turtles are forced to fight. They all wind up in the antique shop below and are soon outnumbered as Tatsu arrives with reinforcements. However, Casey Jones suddenly appears out of nowhere, mind you, having spotted Raphael from the roof. Oh yeah, he spots Raphael from the rooftops, and helps the turtles escape through a secret doorway in the building. As the building catches fire, they escape in April's van, and the ninjas retreat as the shop and apartment burn to the ground. Danny watches as afar, and Casey hears the voicemail that April is getting fired. So that scene's really cool. I like the fight in the antique shop.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I like how when they're actually fighting in her apartment, and like the floor becomes so unstable because there's so many people in there, and there's so many people fighting, and the floor has so many cracks in it that they just fall through.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I also like the fight on the rooftop where Raph is fighting all the foot soldiers and kind of by himself, and like he takes a bunch of them out, and then he gets really cocky and like 3 times as many show up.
Yeah.
They start jumping on them.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really really a good scene. Let's see here. Where is the next scene? What did I just read? They decide to hide out at a farmhouse that belongs to April's family, and everyone pitches in to make the place feel more livable. Raphael remains unconscious, and Leonardo provides an endless vigil. April recounts what happens in a diary and draws sketches of the turtles while trying to resist the charm that Casey puts on her. Once Raphael comes to, the turtles reconcile and resume their training. Despite their absence from the city, Shredder is bent on finding them, telling Tatsu that their method of fighting reminds him of the past. While meditating, Leonardo manages to make contact with Splinter and convinces the others to join him in a seance at night. They all share a vision of Splinter, who tells them how proud he is and that they have mastered the training of the mind, becoming true ninjas before disappearing. The turtles decide to return to New York to find and rescue him. So
this was like wacky. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what are y'all doing?
I think there was something in those marshmallows that Donatello and Michelangelo brought with them.
Right. Because I was just like, okay, this was just really thrown in to move this plot along. Because I'm like, y'all didn't have no kind of clue of where Splinter was at. And now...
Right. And like, regardless of like them being, giant talking turtles that know ninjutsu, right? Like this movie is pretty grounded, right? Like it's pretty believable outside of like them being giant turtles, right? Like there's not really any like quote superpowers or anything of that nature, right? But this part, like when they introduce magic into this movie, like it really kind of throws everything off, and it really kind of like, I mean, it's a plot device. It moves the plot along, like you said, and like I don't really think it's done badly. It's just a big left turn the way this movie has gone, right? Yeah,
because it was like, okay, so they're getting in contact with Splinter while they meditate. So is Splinter meditating too? Because like later on in the scene, he's like hanging like he's being crucified.
Yeah,
I'm just like, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that they're like all 5 of them are meditating right now, and they just happen to meet that way?
Right. And so I don't know. I think they probably like just kind of wrote themselves into a hole when they escaped and went to the farmhouse when they were writing the script. It kind of feels like they didn't know how to get the turtles back, and they needed a plot device that was relatively cheap and just did away with a lot of the explaining, right? And just so that's kind of what this was. It's just like a plot device to move the story forward that was relatively cheap and got them moving the movie along faster, which, look, for me, it's fine. Whatever. I don't really care. I know it's not the greatest plot device, but
as a kid, you don't really think about it. Yeah. But when you see it as an adult, be like, wait, that don't make no sense.
Yeah, but, like when you're watching the movie and like I said, the movie feels relatively grounded up to this point, right? And you just introduce this weird kind of telepathic connection between the turtles and Splinter now, and it's like, okay.
Of course.
I'm telling you, dude, Donatello and Michelangelo lace those marshmallows with something. So also, the scenes in the farmhouse are really good. Like I really liked the fact that like April was also an artist. Like I love those drawings of the turtles. Like I absolutely love those drawings of the turtles. And then the scene where Casey and Donatello are trying to fix the truck, right? That's a hilarious scene because they're calling each other names alphabetically, which is just hilarious to me because like they stop in the middle of their conversation and they're like, "What letter are we on?" You know?
Yeah.
It's just I love that scene so much. It's so good. It's very a very good scene. And then obviously Casey and April are, they're feeling it. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, also the scene where Casey tries to sit next to April on the swing and she gets up and like storms into the house and he sits there eating the apple and the swing breaks.
Yeah.
Also a very comical scene. Very, very comical scene.
Yeah, that was a good one.
All right, let's move on to this next scene. At the Foot Clan warehouse, Danny discovers Splinter, who detects Danny's confusion and angst and speaks to him. He offers Danny guidance and advice during their short conversations, telling him that all fathers care for their sons, despite Danny's anger towards his father. The Turtles return to their lair and find Danny hiding out in the closet. He tells April he ran away from his father, but will go back to him if he could just spend the night. Everyone agrees to let him stay, and April shows and gives him one of the drawings she did of the Turtles. During the middle of the night, Danny abruptly leaves, but not before drawing the attention of Casey, who was sleeping in the truck at the time, who follows him. They go to the Foot Clan hideout where Danny, confused, seeks out Splinter while Casey knocks out a foot ninja and steals his outfit. So yeah, that whole scene where they're and they discover Danny, and Casey wants to sleep in in the truck because he doesn't want to go in the sewers because he's, quote, claustrophobic, and then he sleeps in the truck even though it's raining and he is claustrophobic. That moment you realize he really is claustrophobic, and he just cracks the window like maybe a half an inch. that seems pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie.
The flashback with Danny and Splinter, how Splinter learned martial arts from his master, the two people, the couple.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm like, wait, this should have been the first flashback, and the turtle should have been the second one.
I know. I realized that as I got older. I feel like that this should have been a flashback earlier, but again,
okay. So I have got to ask, do you think all of that stuff was like in pre-production and they never went back and fully?
I feel like this movie
fixed it.
I feel like this script could have been edited a little bit better. Like certain.
Because the cinematography at that part looked jank.
I mean, there was some really bad lighting in that scene. But I think they were trying to focus on Splinter being like this really intricate puppet, and instead of the actual fighting in the background, right? And and I feel like the lighting during the when Orokusaki comes in and takes on Hamato Yoshi, like the lighting in the fighting in that scene is very bad. And then once Splinter finds out his master is killed and he jumps on Shredder, right, or Rokusaki at that time, and really messes him up with his claws, and then Rokusaki slices his ear, right? Like that whole scene is just like, I like the idea of the scene. It's just a very badly shot scene, and I feel like it looked like it was rushed and really added late.
But because that's how when Splinter's talking about the turtles, like the cinematography is like bad too. Like everything feel like it's zoomed in.
Yeah,
and it's just like, okay, I know you guys are trying to do this on a soundstage or do it something on like a table or something.
Dude, it looks like they're doing it in somebody's garage with like really bad lighting. With like, okay, do you have a lamp? We need this lamp shown here. Right, and like just the lighting and the shadows and stuff. And I know like it looks like it's supposed to be some sort of artistic take on this shot, but it's not very good.
It's like they spent like $7,000 on this, and it was just like, whatever computer that we could digitize or fix this in, we'll use that $7,000 for. Like this is poor.
Yeah, it's not very good. Right, it's just.
I understand 13.5, but I'm like, y'all could have spent some.
It feels like Splinter. This scene feels like Splinter was just supposed to talk to Danny, right? And during like some test screening or something, like they didn't like that it was just a conversation, right? So after the test screening, they went back and were like, what can we do in like a day to fix this scene? And they just edited that and put it together, right? And that's what it really felt like. But I like the idea of the scene. It was very poorly done. Anyways, we're also back to the where the turtles discover Danny is staying there, right? They discover that Danny's been ordering pizza and bringing it down there, and they go to eat it, but it's really old pizza and it has mold on it, and they dun 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 dun. Dun, dun, and they like throw it away, and they're like really upset that they have to throw away pizza. It's awesome. All right,
yeah.
we are. Let's see. I don't really want to talk about this scene either. We really just talked about the flashback. Meanwhile, the let's see. Tells Tetsu. Okay. Splinter. However, Saki. Oh, okay. Danny asks what became of Saki, with which Splinter replies that no one truly knows. But Danny wears the emblem on his headband. Shredder discovers the two, asking where Danny's been before removing the drawing from his back pocket. He angrily walks away to gather his forces and tells Tatsu to, quote, kill the rat. Hearing this, Danny rushes back where he runs into Casey and explains that they're going to kill Splinter, in which they go to rescue him. They manage to get him out of his chains, but are stopped by Tatsu and his team of ninjas. Meanwhile, the Foot sets out to ambush the Turtles in their hideout, but are surprised by the sneak attack. The Turtles fiercely fight back and bring the conflict to the streets above, where they eventually wind up on a rooftop. As they fight, Casey engages Tatsu in one-on-one combat and manages to overpower him. Before leaving, he questions the gang members on their idea if this is a so-called family that they are a part of. After dispatching a few remaining ninjas, the Turtles are surprised by the sudden appearance of the Shredder, who engages the Turtles in combat, but they prove to be no match for him. When the Turtles are asked about Splinter, Shredder mocks them and implies that Splinter is dead. Furious, Leonardo rushes him, only to be pinned, and the other Turtles are forced to throw down their weapons. So, I really think that this climactic scene at the end is also very awesome. I love the one-on-one fights with Shredder, and just how intimidating and how threatening Shredder feels in this movie, especially at this part, right?
Well, and especially when all you know is the cartoons, you know, for the longest time, where he's like a wimpy loser. You know, like it was nice to see an actual Shredder that actually feels like a threat.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, I like how the Turtles try to take him on one-on-one and really try to and they just can't, you know, and even when they try to fight him as the small instance where they try to fight him as a team, he just takes them all out, and they are no match for Shredder. So it's really cool to see, because like you said, Jesse, in the cartoons, the Turtles just annihilate Shredder all the time, and Shredder's just this henchman to Krang, and Bebop and Rocksteady are really ridiculous, and you know, that kind of the cartoon versions of the villains are just really dumb, for lack of a better term. And this kind of feels like Shredder really feels like, if you compare it to a modern set of movies, I would compare it to this is the Batman Begins Dark Knight version of Ninja Turtles, right? Where the villains are actually very intimidating and threatening and really fleshed out and cool. And you actually wonder if the Turtles can actually win, which, to be honest, in this movie, the Turtles don't win, right? As you see in the ending scene, Splinter gets really aggressive towards Splinter, and Splinter throws him off the edge, right?
He throws a weapon at him, right? I think Michelangelo's nunchuck or something.
Well, Michelangelo loses his nunchucks on the ladder up to the roof. Yeah, and Splinter gets it and gets them, and he kind of, as Shredder charges him with his staff with the knife on the end, Splinter uses the nunchucks to kind of parry the staff and flips Shredder over the edge.
Yeah, he wraps it around his staff and then grapples onto his staff basically and flips him.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah. this scene is described as before another blow can be struck, Splinter appears on the roof and speaks out to Shredder, addressing him as Oroku Saki. Shredder charges Splinter with a Yari, which is the bow staff with the knife on the end of it, but is flipped over the roof by Splinter's quick movements using one of Michelangelo's discarded nunchaku. Using the coil on the nunchucks, Splinter holds Shredder by his Yari precautiously over the edge of the roof. When Shredder throws a knife at him, Splinter releases his grip, causing the Shredder to fall into a compactor of a garbage truck. Casey casually flips a switch, and the hydraulic door closes, crushing Shredder's mask. The Turtles reunite with Splinter as the police arrive and question the remaining Foot members, who reveal where all the stolen goods are kept. April prepares to run a final update on the story when the news crews arrive and gives Casey Jones a celebratory kiss. The Turtles cheer in exchange for slang exclamations before Splinter says that his favorite has always been Cowabunga. The Turtles unanimously agree and cheer as Splinter laughs, saying that, quote, "I made a funny," and the film ends.
Yeah.
Oh, man, what a great final scene. Oh,
Yeah.
I love this final scene where, like, you know, Casey gets April and the Turtles are cheering, and I think it's hilarious that Donatello can never think of something fun to say because it's always something else, and you know, it's just really good. It's a good scene.
Yeah, Shredder reminded me of Darth Vader in a sense, like his mannerisms,
his mask too. Like the mask really does look like a Darth Vader-esque helmet.
Yeah. So. But I did like the way how the movie ended, and you know, Danny running to his dad and hugs him, and then you never hear of Danny and the dad ever again for the series.
I know. They're just gone. Just like Casey Jones. Womp womp. But yeah, like I said, the end of this movie is really fun. I like how I like how they show Shredder's mask getting crushed, but you don't actually see Shredder.
Yeah.
So
keeping it PG-13.
Right. I think this movie's only rated PG, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it. That's the plot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990. Like I said, this is probably it's definitely one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie, depending on what day it is. I know there's a lot of things that are kind of questionable and bad about this movie, but there's also a lot to love in this movie, and
it's a fun family flick. You know, for the kids and stuff. It's just something that, as a kid, definitely if you were into Turtles, you were going to watch this movie and literally enjoy. Like, you didn't recognize the cousin, you didn't recognize the flashbacks and stuff. You were just having this ride of seeing the Turtles and laughing at the jokes and the wackiness that's going on, and knowing what the Turtles is about. You just had a affinity for them, and you just want to see them do cool ninja moves and see them win and everything. But like kids never understood like there's going to be some wins and losses for the Turtles, and the losing helps them become better and stuff. Like, kids didn't really understand that. They was just like, what we see in the cartoon is being kind of somewhat represented in this movie.
Yeah. So, where do you guys put this movie on your kind of overall favorite movies of all time? Is it like, would it be considered in your top 10? Would it be just like a movie you would put if you were to make a top 50 list? Would it make that list? Like, where, like, I mean, I've already said where I put this movie on a list, but
it would make my top 50, but it wouldn't be in my favorite. I think due to the fact of how many movies I have seen and stuff, if it was something based off a cartoon or something like that, I'd probably say this would be if I had to rate it on a movie based on a cartoon that got like this kind of adaptation, I think it would be number 2 for me. Where Transformers would probably be number 1. No, not Transformers, because that's animated. I think Turtles 2 would be number 1, and this would be like number 2 for me in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Mortal Kombat probably would be number 3 in a sense, because I love Mortal Kombat the movie. I love the first one. That one was really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think it would, for sure be in my top 50. But like Ed said, there's so many movies that I've seen that it would just be such a hard list to make.
Yeah, it would be in the range from 11 to 19, 11 to 20.
Yeah.
Sorry, it would be in that range, and it would probably be like number 12 if I had to do it like that, because I do enjoy this movie. But then better movies came out, and it's just like, where do I place these kind of movies and stuff, and stuff like that. Because like what movie, like Punisher Warzone, like I will put that like in the range between the 1 to 10. That would be in one of my top favorite movies above the Turtles.
I've watched so many like cheesy horror films and stuff that I really, really love, even though they're cheesy. It's kind of like the same idea as these turtle movies where like they're done really well. Like there's a cheesiness to it, but it works. It works for what it is. Like it wouldn't be as good of a movie, I feel like, had they taken it too seriously.
Yeah.
Like some things need to be more on the cheesier side,
more magical in the sense.
Yeah.
I really think this movie does a good job of knowing what it is and knows when to be serious and when to be funny, and it just knows what the Turtles are, and like I think it does a really good job of combining what made the original run of comics so interesting in the first place to people, combining it with the humorous parts of the cartoon, and really just kind of bringing it around full circle, and really knowing what it wanted to be. And I think the second movie does that as well. I think I actually would argue that the second movie does it better in terms of knowing what they want it to be. I really like the darker tone of the first movie, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Like 1 or 2, you literally, like, if it came on TV right now, I would just sit down and watch it all the way, commercials and everything. It's just it pulls you in, and you have a good time with it. It's such a good fun ride, Of course, yes, as adults we could pick this stuff apart, but you still have a good time watching this fun movie. Like, it's a great movie.
Yeah, and you can pick stuff apart, but there's certain movies, like whenever I think it's like again, going back to the watching cheesy like horror films and stuff like that, I think I've kind of like almost like trained myself to kind of not be so picky when it comes to movies, because like I rarely like really think much deeper than what something is. Like, just because like when I go to a movie, I just want to have fun, and if it's a good movie, if it's something I like and it's good to me, I'm that's awesome. Like the new Star Wars movies, like I love all of them, and like so many people pick them apart.
Yeah,
and it's like, man, like, remember when it used to just be cool that you were watching a Star Wars movie? I'm glad that I still like that for me, that I still just enjoy movies for what they are, and and just I don't think too deep about things, and look for reasons to be upset. I just don't do that with movies.
Yeah.
And so I can still watch this Turtles movie. I can still watch Secret of the Ooze. I can still watch movies like Short Circuit 2 and enjoy them because they're fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're a little cheesy or whatever, but it's a movie. You're supposed to just be having fun and like, suspending your disbelief, or whatever.
People are too analytical and too like, well, why doesn't this appeal to me in this, and I feel like we do a pretty decent job, not just, with games and stuff, but I feel like overall we do a pretty good job of just analyzing stuff as a group, just from a really kind of what am I trying to say? Not as a, oh my gosh, why isn't this for me perspective, but just like an overall audience perspective. And like even the two new Turtles movies that
the Michael Bay ones,
like
I love the second one.
I really like those movies. I think the second one is awesome.
Yes, I do too. Like that, I still love that shot. That there's the one bike and they're all in line, and then they spread out to that triangle. Like that shot right there is so good.
Or even like in the first movie, the elevator scene when they're riding the elevator up in the parking garage and they just start like beatboxing. Like that to me really felt like Ninja Turtles, and like I did like, I do have a couple gripes with that movie, but it's not like I don't have gripes with every movie I watch, right? It's just like, okay, I always go into movies with low expectations because I know people have already either overhyped it for me already, or, the reviews or whatever were low because people didn't like it. So I'd always like just try to go into movies with managed expectations. And if I really enjoy it, like, I'll be really surprised. Like, I'm not, for example, I'm not a huge Marvel guy, right? But like, I'll watch the movies, I think the movies are just fun to watch from time to time. And I went into, like, everyone's like, oh man, Avengers Endgame is the greatest movie of all time. I'm like, I doubt that, but I'm going to go in with managed expectations. And like, I was actually really impressed at how they wrapped everything up, right? And they really did it. Did I love the movie? It was good. Like I like certain characters in that Avengers franchise. Like I like seeing certain stories wrap up of the characters that I'm interested in. Is it my favorite movie? No, but it is impressive at how they wrapped everything up. I will have to give them that. And like, that's just how I view movies. I'm not a huge movie buff. I don't really care to watch every movie that's released, right? Especially now with a 1.5-year-old, right? Like I don't get to see movies, but like, I like movies that I like, and I am kind of tired of being apologetic for liking certain movies. Like for one thing, I like the X-Men movies better than the Avengers movies, right?
There's a way to be critical about a movie and giving your opinion and giving your voice. You don't have to agree with everybody,
right?
But you can point out some things that didn't work for you that may have worked for somebody, and you can point out things that did work for you that didn't work out for anybody. There's a way to be able to give a fair evaluation about a movie and stuff. Just like you, Corey, I thought Endgame was okay. It was good. If people hyped it up and truly enjoyed it, I thought it was just fine.
Yeah. I mean, I did like it was a really long movie, Yeah. And I understand why it had to be that long, but like, that was a long movie. It's a movie that it's gonna be a while before I watch it again because it's that long. But I did like, when all the heroes do come back in that fight scene, I thought the fight scene was pretty cool, right? Like there were parts of that movie that were like pretty good, right? Like they were really good.
Yes.
But I'm more excited for that Falcon and Winter Soldier show on Disney Plus than I am the next Marvel movie, right? Like there's just certain aspects of that franchise that I'm really excited for, or like I'm really excited for this new Batman movie that's coming out. Like, I think that movie's shaping up to be something really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I just that's what this show is going to be about, though. It's like we love the things we love, and some of us don't care for certain things. And I want, like, for me, right? I know, Jesse, you brought up Ghostbusters, and that will definitely be something we address on this show and do a show probably within the next few shows, right? I've never seen Ghostbusters, so someone like you who grew up on the movie and have probably seen it 1,000 times, and me coming in 2020 and watching it for the first time, that's going to make a really interesting conversation, I feel like. Right?
Yeah.
And like, I know we've all seen Ninja Turtles and we all have our feelings about it, but like, I feel like we're going to have a lot of things, like a lot of Studio Ghibli movies, right? I'm going to be coming in for the first time, never seeing those, or, you know, something, I don't know. And I'm sure we'll get to like Indiana Jones and probably Star Wars at some point, probably some Marvel stuff, I'm sure. Probably.
Yeah, which I haven't seen most of. I've really mostly ever got into like the side story stuff. Like I loved like the Ant-Man and like Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And
I think if we do
stuff like that, I haven't really watched much of the Avenger movies, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think I only seen the first one.
Yeah. So like I think if we do the Marvel stuff, I think we would do it in order though. Just because, like, if we're going to do it, we might as well just do it right. So we'll start with Iron Man, right? And I think that would probably be the best way to go about it. But, you know...
are we going earlier than that? Because, like...
No, because
the Hulk.
The MCU starts with Iron Man. So,
okay, so we're not going...
I mean, we can do, like, X-Men and the original Spider-Man trilogy. We can do those, too. You know, I'm not saying, like... Look, this show we can literally talk about anything on this show, right? I think the next episode you guys will hear will probably be our Dreamcast episode. So, I mean, it's not just going to be about movies, right? And my wife and I were talking about stuff, and we kind of want to do one on, like, Harry Potter, right? Because she really loves that series, and I enjoy that series too, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
Movies.
So, like, that would clearly be an episode Ed would sit out on, judging by his reaction. And, like, Jesse, maybe you, me, and my wife, and, you know, if your wife wants to do it, like, we could have that kind of conversation. Or, you know, I know Ray would probably want to be on the Marvel stuff, or, you know, if we do the Dark Knight trilogy, or 1989 Batman, or, you know what I mean? Like, certain things I know Ray would want to be a part of. And if there's anime stuff that, like, I just feel like, Ed, like, I just really don't want to be a part of that, you know? Like, the Studio Ghibli stuff, I will watch them because it's probably an hour and a half of my time that, you know, I could waste watching a Japanese Disney-style movie, right? But, like...
Well, and I'm
not going to watch, like, Avatar: The Last Airbender for 3 weeks, or Naruto, or One Punch Man, or Pirate Piece One Coin, or whatever it's called. Piece. Yeah, whatever.
One Piece.
Like, I just don't care, right? Like, I just don't care.
Like for me personally, I would like to see you watch like Rama Half. I would love to see you watch Rama Half.
I think you just made that word up.
No, Rama Half, Ranma, Rama. That is an actual TV show in Japan that has been one of the biggest hits in Japan.
You know what, Ed? I'm just going to say I believe you.
The premise, if you read the premise, you'll be like, I can't watch this. But if you watch it, you'll kind of laugh, and I hope that you enjoy it. But like something like Akira is one of the big, like Akira and Ghost in the Shell is like two of the biggest anime movies.
Yeah, like I'll watch a movie, right? Like I'll watch an anime movie and talk to you guys about it, and maybe one of these movies will allow me to become more interested in anime in general. But like,
with Ninja Warrior, Ninja Spirit
But like, I'm not gonna watch 47 seasons of Dragon Ball to catch up in like,
I
time.
See, and that's the thing. A lot of the major anime shows actually have movies that are standalone that would give you a taste of the storyline and like what the show is about without having to watch 3. Well, in Naruto's case, there's like almost 1,000 episodes or more.
But Rama half, I was going to do with anybody, I would be like, I just want you to watch the first episode and get an idea of why it's very popular still today in Japan, and how it led people to love Inuyasha and stuff like that, and why this female comic artist made this and what she's recognized for her work. Like, I would do that because it is definitely for me, it's part of my childhood. And it was a big thing in the 90s on how people really got into anime and stuff like that. So, but I can understand. Yeah.
Yeah,
and definitely, I will. Oh, sorry, Corey. While we speaking on Turtles, I would definitely recommend, and hopefully you will watch it, Corey. The Turtles and Batman animated movie, DC animated movie, super good. Really
good.
Well, like I said, we have a lot that this show could go on forever, right? There's endless things to talk about. We're gonna, like I said at the top of the show, we're gonna be on the Boss Rush podcast feed every other Friday for the time being. If the show gets popular and people want to have it every week, we will find a way to make that happen. But we are I'm using the unused RSS feed for the return of Arsenal X, our Xbox podcast. So I would like to eventually move this to its own feed, but for now, the Boss Rush podcast feed is where it's going to live. I hope you guys enjoyed this first episode. Again, we're trying to feel out a way to do this, but I feel like this first episode went pretty well. I think detailing the plot synopsis of the Turtles is pretty funny. The way that they wrote it was just too hilarious not to read online.
Yeah.
But I want to thank everybody for watching. Remember, you can catch all of our content on bossrushgames.com. You can watch the video versions there or on our YouTube page, youtube.com/bossrushgames. Follow us on Twitter at boss_rush_games and on Instagram and Facebook at bossrushgames. Give us a like, subscribe, and share. Rate or review us on your podcast service of choice. If you have any suggestions, tweet at us. We'd love to hear them. If it's something that you guys want to hear, we will maybe once every couple episodes we will do a fan voted episode. So thank you guys so much for watching and or listening, and we will see you next time on Standard Definition. Goodbye, guys.
Turtle power. Bye, everybody.
Bye.